Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to our regular meeting once a month. Tonight we have the future of the camera industry presented by George Barroso. He's the owner of a fantastic tech camera service in Jacksonville. He is a factory trained service technician with over 20 years of experience in camera repair industry. I know, unfortunately, I got to meet George. Uh, he's like a doctor. You make an appointment, you get a diagnosis from George. He will explain the procedure to you, what he's going to do, and then you get it fixed and you pay him the bill. And I must say, he's done some quite good work for me. He has made many of our members very happy, including me, with his camera services. So you can ask him camera questions after his presentation. He will give you a presentation, and if you would hold your questions and your uh, input to George after he finishes the presentation. So without further ado, George, I'm going to hand it over to you. And if anytime during the session you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Okay, uh, thanks. Thank you. Can everybody hear me, first of all? If you can't, well, Tim, you can hear me, so the rest of the people should be able to hear me.
Yes, we can.
And
Yes, I can hear you.
So I'll be going over just a quick presentation on the future of the camera industry and where we've been and where it's going. And a lot of this information was gathered from articles out there on the internet and conversations I've had with people that I know in the industry, and their take on it and the take on the what the trade publications say is going on and what we can expect, on down the road, so that so that will how will this hobby continue? Who are going to be the players in it? And by players, who are the manufacturers that are going to be in it? Who are who are these other people that may be coming along? But anyway, I'll go along with the presentation, and like Tim mentioned, we can if you have any questions, save them to the end, and I can do a Q&A, not just on the presentation, but if you have any questions regarding photo equipment and whatnot, let me know. So let me Tim, what do I do? Share a screen on here?
Yeah, share your screen, the button in the middle.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. Let me go to that. All right. How's that? Does everybody see that?
Yes, I got it, George.
Okay.
Yes.
So basically, I'll be going on about the camera industry, the trends, the direction of our hobby, and for some of us, profession, really, which would include me. I mean, sometimes I don't think of it as, how the camera industry impacts me, but it certainly does, and how the manufacturers these days are supporting the product that they sell, in terms of third-party servicers like myself, or even really in terms of how they support their own service facilities. So we'll start out with who I am, and some of you may know me, some of you may not. My name is George Barroso. I own Fantastic Camera Service in Jacksonville, and my wife and I moved down to this area about it'll be 3 years this October. I got together in discussions with Trace from Lensfly, and he kind of convinced me to move down here because I was doing a little bit of work for him at the time in terms of repairs, and he said, hey, you should check out this area because you'll definitely get a lot more business than I was in the Boston area. Amazingly, there's a lot more photographers and people involved in photography in this area than there is in pretty much the whole Boston area, or into New Hampshire, southern Maine, which was the majority of my customers. So I know, just looking at Facebook groups and whatnot, that the hobby here is definitely has a lot more people involved in it, both from a hobbyist point and a professional, from the professional side. Oops, wrong button. Okay, so just quickly to go, what my technical experience is. Basically started out with the U.S. Air Force, and when I left there, was employed by Canon USA in New Jersey as a factory technician. From there, I left and went to Sony Electronics. After Sony Electronics, also as a tech there, and a tech trainer, where I trained other techs on servicing primarily video cameras, broadcast video cameras, which was what they did in that particular service facility that I worked in, supporting a lot of this was, in northern New Jersey, supporting the New York media market. Then I did leave there and went as a tech trainer into Circuit City Stores, where I then became a manager and director of service for the Northeast. And once they started, things there started not looking so great, I moved on to Best Buy, doing the same thing, training technicians. When I left, and I took a bit of, some time off, and then in between 2012 and 2014, I started what is now Fantastic Camera Service. I said, hey, I enjoy doing this, and there was a need for it, and I could make some money at it. 2012, 2014, we were just coming out of the recession, so that it fit pretty well, and we're here now, at least the last 2.5 years, and we're here to help the photographer community in Northeast Florida. I keep hitting the wrong button, so bear with me. All right, so looking at the camera, at the market, the imaging and the peak of the market, 2010 was the peak sales for digital cameras. Okay, digital cameras started out as film was dying out. Digital started up, and 2010 was pretty much the peak for digital cameras. And what does that have to do? Well, in 2010, 2011 really marks the market acceptance of both smartphones and tablets started becoming more and more commonplace. Phones started coming out with better cameras. This was around the time of the transitioning from the iPhone 3 onto a 4, and the camera in the 4 was a lot better. And then Samsung started putting some really decent cameras into their product. So mass acceptance of social media platforms, and basically the drive to share what you're seeing, your Facebook, your Instagram, drove people away from cameras to the phone image capture. Whereas before, you were going to have an event, you made sure you took your camera with you, or somebody in the family did. But with the phones, you could capture it, you could share it right away. So a lot of people stopped basically using cameras, and the overall digital camera market started to die out. So the camera market the industry has steadily declined since the peak in 2010. And you can see by this graphic, and this is worldwide digital camera shipments. And the way they look at it is if it's shipped, it's sold. And that's just the way they measure it. Basically, cameras with built-in lenses and cameras with interchangeable lenses. In 2010, you can see that cameras with built-in lenses, your compact camera type, huge. And then it just started declining. Whereas, pretty much in 2019, it was about 50-50, the amount of cameras that were sold with interchangeable lenses versus the one with built-in lenses. And it's actually flipped now. I don't have it, so it shows going in, the last 2 years have been a bit of an anomaly because of COVID, where the markets have slowed down considerably. Items being shipped around the world slowed down considerably. Some of the manufacturers actually shut down some of their factories for a period of time. That's why right now, as they're ramping back up and they release new products, you're seeing a lot of shortages in terms of product, i.e., I'll mention one that I'm very familiar with, Canon. Some of their RF lenses are very, very hard to buy. I mean, even if you buy a camera and you want to use your old lenses, your EF style lenses on a new mirrorless camera, it's hard to get those little adapters that, that provide that function. Most of the time you go online to look for them, like at the big camera stores like B&H or Adorama, and they're on back order. And that's the trend right now, that they're having a hard time keeping up with the demand for this stuff. People would think that, hey, some of their higher end lenses, $2,800, $3,000, both, Canon, Sony, and all those. A lot of these places have it on back order. So it's taken a while to catch back up. While the trend was going down that cameras is dying out, the smartphones started basically, going up in numbers used. Pretty much everyone I know, and everyone most of you know, has a smartphone with a camera and can share that information online, either via messaging or via any of the apps that do so. The problem is, well, I shouldn't say a problem, but the fact is that most of these images are only ever shared via messaging or social media. This is something that, before, going back into the 80s and 90s, where you were sharing images, you were taking photos, you were developing, and you were getting them printed and then showing the photo. That does not happen a lot now. Most people, even some of us, do not print. We take the photos and they live on our hard drives or on our computer. Printing is still very much has fallen behind the times, really, in terms of people going out and making prints. The good thing is that we're able to pretty much edit and get it to how we want it, with technology these days, before we even ever print it or get it printed. I lost my mouse here, sorry. Okay, there we go. And as I mentioned, overall, the camera industry peaked in 2010 and has declined since then. We saw a little bit of this graph before, and you see here where camera sales have dropped by 84% since 2010. And if you're a manufacturer, and I'll go into that in a minute, it's tough. You've seen where a lot of the manufacturers have either gone out of business or sold their existing business to other companies, i.e. Olympus just recently sold off their digital cameras business to another company. Other companies that we were familiar with in the past completely stopped to exist, or just got out of it for a while there. Samsung itself was making digital cameras, and they saw it was coming, and they got out of the market altogether. And although they made a pretty good product in terms of interchangeable cameras, and they got out of it. So it's sad for some of us that, what could have been if only the trend had continued, where more companies adopted digital and continued down that road. So quickly looking at this, interchangeable lens cameras shipped. And remember I mentioned, by shipped, they look at it like if it's shipped, it's sold. Whether it's sat in somebody's warehouse, to them it's sold. And so you can see Canon far, this is 2019, far outsold your Nikon, your Sony, your Fuji, Olympus, and others. Hold on, let me move this around so I can see. How do I do this? Hold on, bear with me. There we go. Out of those cameras sold, 3.49 million were mirrorless cameras, or about 46%. This was in 2019, with the majority of those being sold by Sony. The rest by Canon. Canon, a lot of people look at Canon. Well, Canon just came out with a mirrorless system. They've had one all along. Their M system has been around for quite a while now. A lot of people kind of forget that, but the crop, that's a crop frame camera, and that's been around for quite a while. Followed by Fuji, Olympus, Nikon at the time was just getting into mirrorless. They had a mirrorless system called the Nikon One that didn't really go anywhere for the most part. It was kind of like they didn't want to take sales away from from the DSLR, so literally they crippled that system to a point where nobody wanted to use it. It was a very small sensor, high noise, not very good quality system. So they kind of did it to themselves when it came to that, using a 1-inch sensor type of sensor that wasn't really that good. So we talked about Olympus, and Olympus being sold off to a company called Japan Industrial Partners. From everything I've read, is their goal is to continue to, if you're in, doing micro four thirds cameras, their goal is to continue to produce cameras and optics for the system. Same thing with Panasonic, although Panasonic now has come out with a full frame system in cooperation with Leica. They will continue to support the 4/3 format, and you can see they have released cameras and lenses recently for that type of format. Olympus, they haven't yet, but the whole Japan Industrial Partners thing just happened at the beginning of this year or end of last year, really. So it's still fresh, but I don't know what name they're going to use. But I know that when Japan Industrial Partners took over, bought that imaging division, they did not buy the Olympus name. Olympus is still in business making medical imaging equipment, and they still have the name. But I don't know if the Olympus name is going to continue in the camera market, or are they going to come up with a different name? From what I've heard, it's going to be called the OM system, not the Olympus, but we'll see. So one of the questions I often get asked, folks that own and use micro four thirds, is if micro four thirds is dead, should I buy a micro four thirds sensor? And so a lot of people asking those questions that want that system or want to use that system or are currently using that system because the cameras are small, they're easy to carry, they're not bulky, the sensors are better as far as small sensors go, and a lot of wildlife photographers like it because of the size and the crop factor, that you can, have lenses with pretty good reach that are small and portable. So by far, that particular camera, from everything I've read, is still the favorite for many travel or adventure photographers. The sensor is smaller, but often Olympus cameras are often seen ranking very high sales in Asia. In 2020, the Olympus OM10 Mark III was Japan's most popular mirrorless camera, more so than Sony cameras. So that's still being used, still very popular. And I don't think they're going to stop making them. I think they're going to continue to develop that system with new lenses and new cameras and new technologies. So looking at mirrorless camera sales, okay, this is in 2019. I didn't have data for 20. The data for 2020 is all out of whack anyway. So it's not something that because of COVID, everything was just, it's like you take 2020 literally for everything and just throw it out, because none of the numbers for anything really make sense. Digital cameras, mirrorless single lens. As far as the share of, Canon was number one, and Olympus followed by Sony. Sony has come on stronger than that now in the last 2 years, mainly because of their product offering. And Canon got up there because they literally, one of the things you'll notice about Canon is that they'll put out a lot of models, very similar, but with different features. So you may have where Olympus will be releasing one model, Canon may release 2 or 3, and this is in the M system, because in 2019, the R system was just coming. That's when they released the EOS R, was in 2019. So that was a bit of that, but also primarily the M system. And when they released the R system is when it allowed them to leap in front of the other manufacturers. 2019, Canon dominated the global market and digital camera market and held close to half of it in 2020 at over 45%. Sony and Nikon followed in the ranking. Nikon dropped to third, Sony came in second with 20 and 19% of the market. This is in 2020. Fuji Holdings and Panasonic each just at under 5%. That doesn't mean the cameras aren't as good. It's just some people kind of, you buy into a system when you start out, or when you start taking, you kind of buy into that system. And a lot of people that bought into the Canon system went right over into the mirrorless, because you can use the lenses without, pretty much just without adapter, and the functionality is very close to a native lens. Whereas, with Sony, it's a complete new system. Nikon, you can use some of their lenses with the adapter, but not all of them. And of course, Panasonic full frame, and is its completely new system. Panasonic and Leica have a new lens mount called the L mount, and new system. So if people are shooting other, like a Canon, it's very tough, especially if you've been doing it for a while, to jump into like one of these other systems like Sony or Panasonic. It's just the cost. I know for myself, the cost to replicate every optic that I have in Canon would just be cost prohibitive. And that's why, when I shifted into mirrorless, I stayed with Canon, because I was shooting in the DSLR times, and still am. Now, initially at the beginning of the year, there was a lot of rumors about Nikon. Is Nikon going to be going out of business? Is Nikon going to merge with another manufacturer? What's going on with Nikon? Are they in financial trouble? And why aren't we seeing more new products from Nikon? Keep in mind, Nikon themselves is a very small company, okay? Unlike Canon. Canon is a huge company, really big company in Japan. Their primary business is not, imaging. That's not their main business. Of course, they have the imaging division that, cameras and video cameras and all those things, but all the way into cinema cameras and all that. But their primary business is not that. Nikon, their business, almost all their business is imaging. They have other businesses that have to do with photolithography, which is the machines and the processes that make semiconductors. The photolithography of doing so, of etching silicon wafers. So they have that business, and they have a lot of patents in that particular business as well. But as far as photography, Nikon, I think they'll be fine. I think they're kind of a Japanese institution that I believe that the Japanese government wouldn't let them go under. They probably would step in and help them out if if it came to that. And I wouldn't put it past, if it did get bad, that they would merge with another company, like Fuji or like one of those other ones. But I think they'll be fine. I think, they're releasing new products right now. I think I just saw they brought out 2 brand new lenses. And it's gonna, and there's rumors, or they shouldn't say there's rumors, they are coming out with a pro body mirrorless camera. And by pro body, I mean, the larger bodies with higher capacity batteries, high frame rates, not necessarily high megapixels, because that's not what pro bodies are made for. They're not the type of body that you take and shoot landscapes with. For the most part, you can, but for the most part, they're meant for sports and sporting events. Okay, so Nikon shift the focus from DSLR to mirrorless, continue to produce full frame, the D780, D850, and a replacement. The D850 replacement, from everything I read, will be coming along, and a D6. The last I heard, there will still be a D850 replacement. That might have changed, but I think there will be one, because they still have a lot of following in that particular bracket, DSLR bracket, that they will come out with a replacement for that. They do have a renewed focus on mirrorless with new low-end Z camera that came out, and a new high-end mirrorless replacement for the D6, which will be coming out. I believe a lot of these manufacturers will come out with these around the same time as the Olympics, if those are to happen. No one knows yet, but it's going to be on average, I think, like 6 to 8 weeks from now when the Olympics should start. So we'll see. So note of worry. The thing with them, though, is that they have huge losses. In fiscal 2020, they posted a $430 million loss. And in 21, they were headed for a $700 million loss. And that's from a company with 2.4 billion market cap. And that's some serious money loss. So hopefully they can turn that around. And like I said, I think the Japanese government wouldn't let them fail. So, but like I said, they are losing a lot of money in there. And of course, COVID didn't help much to any of these companies. As far as Canon seems to be going basically all in on mirrorless technology. New crop frame body to replace the 7D series. Mirrorless pro level body. As we can see, as we know now, they are coming out with that body. It's going to be a mirrorless that fits in between a 1DX type of camera and their R5 camera. They call it an R3. There's rumors that they may replace the M series cameras with the same style and format as the R cameras, but with a crop frame in them. I don't know why they would do that, to be honest with you, because they do have a lot of people that, especially in Asia, that like using the M series. And like I mentioned before, and I wrote here, the M series cameras are probably amongst the best-selling cameras in Japan and in Asia. So I don't think they'll get rid of that. Again, that was based on rumors that Canon will do away with the M system, but again, I don't see that happening either. So Sony is all mirrorless all the time. They have one of the things with Sony that a lot of people sometimes hate is they have a very short development cycle for cameras. And you're looking at 8 months, 6 to 8 months, sometimes a year where you get a new model. So it's that, hey, I just bought this. It's the best one they made, but guess what? 8 months down the road, they brought something else out. And that's been Sony's MO all along, even from my experience when I worked there with them in the digital video camera market. Literally every 6 months, there was new models. It was so much that you hardly could keep up with it. And they basically, trend-wise, they seem to be trending in that direction in terms of their digital mirrorless cameras. The good thing about that, of the short development cycle, that, you get newer sensor technology. one of the, I don't know if this is definitely a neg, but their optics are priced very high. But that's initially. I've seen now that the other manufacturers like Canon has started to price their optics higher. I know, for example, some of the lenses that sell well, that for a while there, and I'll use an example that I'm familiar with because I saw it, how basically the EF 100 millimeter L lens 2.8 macro, okay, that lens would sell for about $900 to $1,000 new. For some reason, for a long time, and I think it's basically the production lot ran out and they hadn't made any more. So there was none to be had, I'd say, for like 2-3 months. You couldn't get your hands on one. And when they started restocking them again, the price jumped by almost $300 for the same lens. You're starting to see that, along with it. When they brought the new lens out, it was $1,200. And I asked around and said, hey, this lens literally 6 months ago, retail price was $900. But now it's $1,200. What's going on? It's like, well, new production run, and they priced it higher. And you're starting to see that with, their RF lenses definitely priced very high. But, it is what it is. The other thing with Sony is that a lot of people complain about, and Sony, it's gotten better, but is the camera menu interface. It's not always very intuitive. And I know I work on cameras every day, different brands, and Sony, sometimes I'll sit there and jump through menus, going back and forth to do certain things that should be like a top level menu. But they're starting to work with pro photographers to get their menus to a point where pros like, but they haven't done that yet. All right, and that pretty much wraps it up. Questions?
What about Gucci?
Hold on, let me, what do I do
that
here,
was Vicky
Tim?
Payne. Vicky Payne. I was gonna ask question, what do you think now with Canon coming up with so many mirrorless, and there is still a lot of DSLR. What do you think, how the DSLR is gonna be facing out of the market? How long do you see it? Is it 5 years, at 1 year? With the prices of the lenses, I don't think it's gonna be that fast, but
Yeah,
just what's your thought on it?
I think from what I've seen that Canon will not release any new DSLRs in the advanced amateur or what they call enthusiast or pro lines. I think what you have out now is what you are going to see. I don't think you will see a replacement for any of the current DSLR bodies. Any new cameras from Canon are going to be mirrorless. And the same thing with lenses. I know that for a fact for lenses, Canon will not come out with any new design, because if you look at the Canon lens catalog in terms of what's available, pretty much a lens for everything. It's pretty extensive. Now, just recently, going back to March, they discontinued a lot of lenses on the DSLR side, a lot. Some of them were quite old, going back 10, 12 years that these lenses have been in production. But some of them, and this was a very interesting tell, is that there's 70 to 200 f4, not the f2.8, f4 IS, which only came out in 2018. That version,
Yeah.
version 2,
Yeah.
has been discontinued.
Wow. What about the wide angle? Like 16 to 35.
No, I think the 16 to 35, you have a version 3 of that lens, and that version 3 has been out probably about 4 or 5 years. And those aren't going to be, they basically said they're not developing any new lenses,
But they're not discontinued it yet.
but they're not discontinuing certain lenses. I think the 70-200 f4 is not it sells, but it doesn't sell as well as their 2.8.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's some people get it because it's a nice travel lens. It's much smaller and lighter. You know, it's tough to travel if you're traveling around. You know, you're going to Europe or you're traveling. The 70-200 f2.8 in the DSLR is a heavy lens to carry around all day. So a lot of times when a lot of people travel, they like to carry f4 versions of those lenses, such as the 16-35, 24-70. All those lenses have f4 versions, which are much, much smaller, but still with excellent optics. But as far as the DSLR lenses from Canon, I don't think you will see any more.
Yeah. Do you have any chance, would you have a list of the lenses Canon recently discontinued?
Yeah, I can look that up and send it out in an email.
Yeah, whatever is convenient, maybe.
Or I can post it. If I find it, the article, I can post it to the Facebook page.
I was wondering about Canon 180 macro, if it's discontinued or if it is just
The
not
Canon
there.
180 macro is discontinued. Yes, it's been for a while. That is, and I'll tell you why. That is not a lens that's sold very well. A lot of people have a hard time with how to use that lens. You see it for a while that you would see a lot of them in the used markets, like, you know, KEH, Used Photo Pro, MPB. There was quite a few, and they were selling for pretty good prices in terms of, as a buyer, it's a good price. But that lens, yeah, that's been discontinued.
Okay, thank you.
George, what is your opinion of the Canon R5?
Canon R5 is a fantastic camera. I think a lot of the, you know, when it came out, it had a lot of not, you know, people that review things, okay, have a tendency to over review stuff. And there's some people out there that, you know, write reviews so they can be on, you know, get clicks. The thing with people that review things on YouTube, I don't quite follow, because I know if you're on YouTube and you have a channel, your whole premise, what you're trying to do is get clicks. So it's easier to get clicks by saying something is no good than by saying something is good. But the R5, a lot of people, you know, it's a great camera, fantastic. The eye tracking, the ability to track certain things is good if you use it properly. As far as the overheating thing that came out along with it and what were they going to do about it, that was mainly video. And that was the guys that shoot video may have that problem. So here's the thing. Mirrorless cameras, SLRs, DSLRs, and those are not video cameras. If you buy those cameras with the intention to replace a C series Canon camera, you're going to run into problems. You can shoot video with it, yes, and you can do pretty well, but extended amount of time shooting video is not going to work out. The camera is going to go into shutdown. And this takes us back to when Canon released the Canon 70D. It was great because a lot of people, oh, I can really shoot video with this. And it was very good video coming off of it. Problem was that camera was never meant for video. So you had a high failure rate of people that were using it for video because the camera would seriously overheat. So the cameras overheat when you shoot video because it's constantly doing a sensor readout. So as the microprocessor constantly, you know, reading what's coming off the sensor, it overheats, you know? So, but other than that, for photography purposes, the R5 is a great camera. And I wish I had one.
Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. in your little presentation, you mentioned that Nikon was not their color saturation and their color was not as good as many others.
That's correct.
I've been a Nikon shooter for a long time, and so far I haven't gone to mirrorless, but I'd like to hear about that a little bit.
Sure. So when I say color science, and what I mean by that is what they call color science. Okay. Most people that shoot any video or anything like that with mirrorless, and there's quite a few people that shoot video with mirrorless. The video that you get out of a Nikon, and that's what I guess I should have explained that, is not very good. Okay. It's just not, what's the word I'm looking for?
Good.
It's not good. Or if it was good, more people would be using it to shoot video with it. The process in terms of color, and it's been documented over and over again that Canon has had a superior color science behind it in terms of what they were getting out of the raw files. Now, that doesn't mean you can't get really good color out of a Nikon. It just, from the history that's out there, you could do more in terms of getting that color out of a Canon.
With video.
Yeah, well, no, with images as well, with raw images. Okay.
Okay. Well,
People would say, well, no, what I get out of my camera is great, and I think it's great. I'm not disputing that.
no, but I'm interested in your take on that, because as an amateur, I don't know that, but also I really appreciate your talk here.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks. And so just on that, it's been written about a lot. Now, and I will say this, in the latest RAW format, because every time that they come out with new cameras, they tweak the RAW format within the cameras ever so slightly. And the latest ones, like your D850, your Z series cameras, your D780, even going back to 750, the color is greatly improved. The color science behind it, it's greatly improved. If you step back into some of the older ones, it just wasn't there. But the new, it's come along to a point where, yeah, it's on par with everyone else. Whether it's Sony, whether it's Canon or Fuji, each one of them gives color a little differently. And but of course, when you shoot raw, you tweak it to whatever you want.
Right. But so you think they are going to come out with a D850 replacement?
D8, whatever they want to call it. The rumors that I've read and seen over the last couple of months, 6 months or so, is that yes, they will. It's going to depend on what kind of imager that Sony brings along, because you may or may not know, Nikon uses Sony imagers in their cameras. So they kind of, whatever Sony comes along, they may tweak it a bit, but Sony's the one, that's manufacturing it.
Okay. Appreciate that.
George,
Yes.
are you saying they're going to replace the D850 DSLR with an improved DSLR?
That's what I've read.
No, but I mean, are you going digital DSLR to another
DSLR, yes. DSLR.
Okay, I didn't think they were going to improve. If you can,
The rumors are that they were going to bring something out. Again, you don't see anything 6 months from now. They're not, because if they're going to do it, now is the time. Because in the market, I think the market will definitely in the next 6 months to a year completely just all the manufacturers go all mirrorless.
Oh, I agree.
They brought out a D780, as you're aware, which is really kind of like a Z6. It's kind of the same features, but it's a DSLR.
I can't see Nikon investing money on a DSLR to improve the D850, because the D850 is a golden cow.
Right.
But we'll see.
But remember, the D850 has been out for a while now.
Yeah.
Technology has moved along. I would say, let's see what they do with their pro body mirrorless.
I agree.
So you will see what they do with the pro body mirrorless, and that'll give a good indication where they're going in terms of technologies. Because they're going to put all the technology, if that's their high end, you know, the replacement technically for a D6, then all the technologies they have are going to go in it. And the type of photographers that use those pro bodies would demand that sort of thing.
Mhm.
You know, like when they came out with the D6, it's got all the features because that's what they need, you know, fast focusing, high frame rates, and so on.
Yeah. Nikon is supposed to come out with a Z9,
Yeah, that's the one.
and I don't know, you know, I've heard that.
Yeah.
Of course, like you, I am too much invested to change my whole system.
Right. If you have a shelf full of Nikon glass,
Yeah.
There's just no way. Or like myself, I have a shelf full of Canon glass, you know. You know, I try all the other cameras because, you know, they come in for service and
Yeah.
I could try all these things. And, you know, the mirrorless offerings are, in my opinion, fantastic cameras. And what you can do with mirrorless, we're only just kind of scratching the surface. So I would
Are you
expect,
offering a repair service on the mirrorless now?
oh, yeah. Yes, yes. So I'll touch briefly on that. We can certainly repair any of the mirrorless cameras in the market right now. Canon, Nikon, Sony. Nikon takes a while to get parts, but Canon and Sony, not a problem getting parts.
Olympus?
The only thing that's happening in terms of the new mirrorless and in the new, and I'm speaking about Canon because that's the one I deal with the most. Where initially you could get, when you got parts, for example, let's say you needed a power board for a camera. The new cameras are much more modular. So in a way, they're slightly easier to fix. The downfall of that, because they're more modular, they're going to be more expensive to fix because now you're getting complete assemblies, whereas before you could just get a power board. Now you can't just get a power board. You have to get basic that whole sub-assembly that includes the power board.
Welcome to the computer world.
Yeah.
Hey, George, does Nikon just still have the one repair facility in New York and nothing
Yeah.
on?
As of March of last year, Nikon shut down all their authorized servicers, and there were only at that time like 13 or 14 of them left. So basically from that point on, they basically went and said, right, no more authorized servicers and you can't buy parts from us anymore. You have to buy parts. So
So
a lot
what's
of
your
a lot of
suggestion? I got
services
a
that
Nikon.
depended primarily on Nikon will shut out.
So what's your suggestion? I got a Nikkor 2 to 500 that needs to be repaired. It's the lock switch broke internally and there's crunching going on. I dropped it. So what do you suggest on?
Okay, well, certain things we can do. You know, the best way to do that is send us an email and tell us exactly what's wrong with it, and I'll see if the part is available. If the part's
Okay.
not available, then it was something that would need to go to Nikon. Unfortunately, yes, to answer your previous question, yes, Nikon only has their facility on Long Island. The other thing, if anybody has sent anything out to Nikon recently, you've noticed that they jacked up their prices considerably, like a lot. And what they basically did, they have two prices, what they call a major repair, and it's not even a minor repair. It's just, I forget the name they use for it. but on average, let's take, for example, a lens that's that a lot of people own that shoot with Nikon, and that, you know,
The 2
pro
to
wide,
500.
and that's a 24 to 72.8.
Yeah.
Okay, a lot of people own that lens. The minimum service charge on a 24 to 72.8 is $570.
Oh. That's
Yeah.
not good.
So about 6 months ago, I shot you an email. I shot you an email, or I talked to somebody on the phone. There wasn't you, but and I was suggested to send it back to Nikon.
Okay, so we probably looked into it at that time, and
So
Yeah.
should I try to run it back by you again?
yeah, so shoot me an email tomorrow. If you could take a photo exactly of what the problem is, and I will research it and see if the part has become available, because sometimes the parts do become available.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I just know that lock switch, it's just it's broke inside, and when I zoom in and zoom out, I hear crunching. So
Yeah,
Um,
something's loose inside.
yeah. So would that be something that I should send to you?
Yeah, like I said, if you shoot me an email, I'll look to see if the part is available. Or, I mean, if you can live without the lock switch, maybe we can get rid of the crunch, which is loose parts inside.
Okay.
Wait, absolutely.
I'm not sure if I still have your email, so I don't know if somebody can shoot me it, but
Yeah,
I can write it down if you put it up.
yeah, if you, I can post it in the message box.
Okay.
Could you discuss the Fuji system and where that is and the future
I'm
of
sorry.
the Fuji system?
Yeah, so Fuji is all, you know, crop frame cameras. Fantastic. Their image sensor is done a little bit differently than all the others. So it's able to capture really sharp images. It's a great system, in my opinion. Okay. It's not any cheaper than any of the other ones. Their top of the line camera is, you know, 1900, 2000, thereabouts. And you know, the Fuji X system, they call the X-Tran imager, is very sharp and with really good color fidelity. Fuji color wise is really good, and they took a lot of what they know from the film business and applied it into the cameras. So I like it. And of course, they also have a medium format digital system, which is fantastic as well. You know, much bigger sensor. Remember, the bigger the sensor, the more light it can gather. So the sharper the images are going to be, with a lot less noise. Although that's proven to be not true anymore, because you can get pretty good clarity out of a 4/3 imager with very low noise. So.
Hey, one more
Other
question
questions?
on the
Yeah.
Nikon's repair facility. So with
Yeah.
them only having one in the country now, their lead time on turnaround's probably crazy long now. Am I right?
Yeah, so they actually have two there, depending on what kind of service you're getting done. Their other one isn't really theirs. Okay, they contracted a lot of their work out. A lot of the consumer work has been contracted out. That is, if you're a pro and you belong to NPS, Nikon Professional Services, you definitely get Nikon service. If you're a consumer and you send your camera in, you may or may not get service done by Nikon. what I've seen is 8 times out of 10, they send it out to a contract service in Brooklyn, New York. That's not where their service facility is, but that's where the stuff comes back from. And they're the ones doing a lot of the work. I mean, that's a cost saving. I think they did it the wrong way to save costs. Usually, you know, in the long run, it impacts people who are the consumers. And, but that's what manufacturers do. That's why there's a lot of legislation out there, mainly tied to the cell phone industry, called right to repair. And the camera industry comes into that, under that umbrella, but it hasn't really gone anywhere because unfortunately the cell phone industry has really high priced lobbyists and high companies that can afford those people. Companies like Apple, companies like Samsung that don't want you to repair their stuff because they don't want the stuff to be repaired. They want to sell you a new one. And unfortunately, maybe something will come along that those that will have more access to parts and service. I hope so.
You have a question in the chat room about what is the best Fuji camera combo for birds. Any news on the 70 to 300 millimeter lens?
On Fuji?
Yes.
Okay, so the very best would be their T4 camera coupled with their 200 mil prime lens. They make a 200 mil. It's an expensive lens, but it's an amazing lens. And the XT4, which is their top of the line right now, it is a really, really, really nice camera. Really nice. A lot of features, in-body image stabilization. You couldn't go wrong. I'm not familiar with a 70 to 200. I know it
70 to
exists.
300.
Oh, I'm sorry, 70 to 300. I know it exists, but I'm not familiar with it. Keep in mind, I don't see that much Fuji stuff come through here. Most of the stuff that we do see is mainly camera bodies, lenses. Well, that's a good thing. The lenses don't seem to break a lot. So, and the ones I've seen that I've had to do repairs on have been mainly because of physical damage, whether they've been dropped or left out in the rain.
Okay, everybody. Any other questions for George? If not, we'll kind of wrap it up for the session. George, we want to thank you very much. It's a good session. You might want to touch base on one thing that may be interested for a lot of people is sensor cleaning, especially with mirrorless cameras where your sensor's always exposed when you remove your lens.
Yeah.
You might want
And
to touch on that.
I think maybe later in the year, we can do something on sensor cleaning in terms of, see, the sensor cleaning lends itself to in-person sort of thing. It's kind of hard to go through sensor cleaning and show, on Zoom. So it would be something that I wouldn't mind doing.
George
person
and
to
Trace
person.
spoke to us before and gave us
Yeah.
a demonstration of how to take care of the cameras, and it was fabulous. So I'd love to get them in for a in-person big meeting, the whole thing. I think because he taught us a lot of stuff about the glop that you use to clean things with, and a lot of other stuff that came in very handy. I know it helped me a lot. So I think we need him in for another in-person session, he and Trace both.
Yeah, I like that. That would be great.
Absolutely.
Okay, George,
I'm okay with that. Just let me know. And Trace and I
That was
can work
one
it
of the
out.
best, that was one of the best informal meetings we ever had.
So thank you.
Very nice.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for the
Absolutely,
info,
thank you.
George. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. It also, I just want to mention if you do have any questions afterwards, feel free to shoot me an email, and we're here to help.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Have a
everyone.
have a good
Thank
night.
you.
George.
Thanks.
Okay,
You all have a good night.
all right, thanks, everybody.
Thanks a
Thanks,
lot,
Tim.
George.
Good job, Tim.
All right, thanks. Thanks, everybody. We'll be signing it off in a second as soon as everybody goes off.
All right, I gotta run.
Okay, George, good.
Take care.
Okay. I'm going to sign off myself. Anybody have any questions, just leave it up on the website. Thanks, everybody, for attending. Good night.